we're gonna go to aux. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for tuning into my stream. My name's Tom, and if you haven't seen my channel before, I do audio post-production tutorials in Pro Tools, and just recently started doing them in DaVinci Resolve, specifically Fairlight in Resolve. And there's a bunch of new features that came with version 20 of Resolve, which I'm sure I'll look at this week or next when I have some time. But I know that a lot of people that watch my channel use Pro Tools. I'm one of them. I've been using Pro Tools for since I was a kid, basically. So it's still my preferred method for working with audio. And there's some really powerful things you can do with Pro Tools that I haven't been able to do with other programs. And then also just some stuff that I figured I'd share today that people have either talked about or asked about when it comes to kind of like secret workflow methods and stuff that maybe like a professional user would know that a beginner or even intermediate person might not know about. So I'm gonna switch to a screen share here. If you guys care to see me, I can do that or that. And as always, like I'm gonna let the chat kind of guide the questions. Let me bring up my chat window real quick. How do I do this? Where is the chat? I thought I had pop-out chat enabled. Yep, I do. Okay, there we go. So, yeah, so we're in Pro Tools, and can I make this stay on top? Probably not. There's probably a way to do this. Oh yeah, that's right, that's right. I've been working in Resolve for so much the past couple of weeks that like I got used to it, which is not great. I'm still doing sound editing in Pro Tools, but as many of you have probably seen, the work has really slowed down, so I've had time to experiment with other software, and it's been really cool. It's been kind of refreshing learning something new. So yeah, this will work. Let me just resize some stuff here, and then you guys don't need to see my ugly mug all the time. So who do we have in the chat? We got Kevin, Kevin Broman, we got Sergeant Dr. Pepper, we got Mike Wax, Christopher Silin, El Mielke, Miguel, Paco, Diamond District Studios from Cape Town, South Africa, and Javier. And Paco asks, will this be available after the video ends? It should. I try to, at the end of a live stream, just make sure it goes right to my channel. So if you can't watch it live, totally fine. Check it out whenever you can. And I forgot to say thank you to all the channel members. Our Discord, which I can show you guys here, has been really great. You guys don't need to see my email. And thank you guys for keeping the chat going. And there's been some interesting discussion about M&Es and workflows and naming conventions and stuff. So if you guys are interested in accessing this, it's for channel members only. And it's not super moderated. It's not like Reddit or any of the other kind of very militaristic guidelines for comments and stuff. I kind of just let things roll, and it's a great place to discuss workflows. And there's been good discussion about DaVinci Resolve and kind of the changes in the industry that we're all seeing. So it's something worth checking out if you're interested. So I didn't do any notes today. This is going to be kind of a short stream because I got some stuff I have to do. So I really wanted to focus on kind of like secret, kind of hidden, you know, stuff that isn't really talked about in the non-professional world as much. So the first thing I want to show you guys is it's not quite a reassign trick, but it's a feature if you have a surround panner that you can use to stack processors and quickly access them all. So what would I call this? I would probably call this like a surround panner plug-in trick, and I'd like to, it'd be cool to sketch this, but instead I'm just gonna try to explain it and show you guys. So I have a mono track. This is a dialogue test track, basically, and I have some dialogue on here. We don't need the video for this. And so this is bused to a 5.0 DX and R track. You could easily make this a 7.0. You're not going to probably want the 0.1 track because you're not going to need the LFE send. But basically just, you're going to use the panner then on the output of this track as a send reassign. So this mono dialogue track is going out to this 5.0 DX NR track. So just to show you an I/O, there's a lot of busing, but if you go down here, I have DX NR, and when you create this path, you want to check auto create subpaths. So do a 5.0 or 7.0 and do auto create subpaths and call it DX NR or whatever. You can easily do this for vocal processing, like a creature vocal, or futzes. Like the possibilities are endless when you figure this out. But the basic thing is you add a surround aux, and you create the mono. We're using these subpaths right here, these 5. Okay, so do that. Then output this track to 5 mono auxes. So go in here and do add 5 mono aux inputs, and you want to call them like, I like to not have any tracks named audio track or audio 1 or audio 4.dupe1. I like them all to be named what they are. So 5 mono aux inputs named DXNR. Okay, and so I have these here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you can see I've got a different plugin on each of these auxes. So I've got my Cedar DNS and DNS1, which I think they just dropped the price like to 250 bucks, which is insane. I think when I bought this, it was $5 grand. So yeah, I've got my money's worth out of it, but this I believe is on sale, and it's still, to me, the best sounding real-time broadband denoiser. There's better, maybe slightly better sounding ones in certain situations for offline audio suite processing, but for just parking it on an aux or a track, Cedar is still the king for me. And I will physically fight anybody who argues with that. So then the next aux, we have dialog extract, Acon digital extract dialog. It's a little bit weird name. And then on NR3, I have DRoom Pro 2. On NR4, I have one of my favorite sub-secret tricks, which is multiband dynamics, and I have a preset called Beater DNS Fun, which is not affiliated or making fun of any other audio plugins, Cedar, excuse me, and I've got other presets too. And then, oh, I got a phone call coming in. It's a telemarketer. Thank you, Apple, for telling me when it's a telemarketer. I appreciate that. DXNR5, I have RX voice denoise, which is my least favorite of these, but it's there. So why do we set these all up on mono auxes? And you can see the mono auxes on these noise reduction reassign buses, or whatever you want to call them. They're all going to the center channel on my dialog 6-track aux. So the audio is coming out of this track, and then where it goes is going to depend on the position of my fader puck. So this fader puck on this track is not going to pan this track in 5.1. To do that, I'll have to do it on these individual auxes. But this panner puck is actually sending it to DXNR1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So just to show you what that sounds like, I don't think I need to solo it. We'll pan through and pay close attention to the loudness on each of these auxes.
500's a deal. That's only because that's out of the goodness of your old employer's heart. 500's a deal. That's only because that's out of the goodness of your old employer's heart. 500's a deal. That's only because that's out of the goodness of your old employer's heart.
So you can very easily mix the noise reduction profiles from all these 5 plugins, or just solo it on one by clicking on the speaker. But this is a trick I don't normally use. I like to do processing on the tracks kind of clip by clip or shot by shot. But I've used this for sound design, like vocals. You know, like I might have this pitch down a certain level, and I might have some distortion and pitch on this one, and this might be an octave down, and like, you know, this could have multi-pitch thing going on. So this kind of surround panner processing, it's really like using the panner as a mixer for the processing that you want to do. And yes, it works in stereo, it works in mono. Like this could easily be output to just a stereo stem. It doesn't matter. You're just using the pan puck as a visual mixer, and it's kind of fun. It's like playing Pong. So yeah, that is a really cool power user trick. Not everybody will need this in their workflow, but it does really lend itself toward hands-on, you know, getting your hands on it and like playing with it and using your ears more than just playing with plugins all day. So that is the first power trick. And if you have questions, if I went too fast or something, you know, drop a chat thing or a comment, and I'll try to like either type out a response after the video is done or just spit it out on the stream. But yeah, this, like, you could change these to pitch shifters and then use it for like a demon voice, you know, where it's like, it's kind of mixing between, and then you get a dynamic feel to it instead of it just being a static pitch shift. Okay, so let me just go through the chat real quick. Kevin says, I just read an article saying the sound stages in LA are down 63%. Yeah, definitely. Watching, we got a couple of people from South Africa. That's cool. I've worked on a couple of shows that were filmed in South Africa. It seems to be a pretty popular place. Mike says, can you do this 5.0 reassign trick when mixing in stereo? Yes, you can do it with reverbs. Any plugin that you want to use in real time, do it with that. You may run into some wonkiness with your plugin delay. Like you can see these plugins, the Acon ones, I generally use as Audio Suite, and you can see the delay on them is a little like it's orange instead of green, so that means that it's causing quite a bit of delay. And like Cedar, Cedar is like no delay. Pro Multiband Dynamics is no delay, and then RX Voicey Noise is also. These are compensated, which means they're making up for this guy. So yeah. Mike says, can the panner be automated? Yes, it can be automated the same way. I have automation turned off on this track, but I'll show you if I put it in like touch. You know what? Let me just show you. Let me do this. So we know what this sounds like. I'll add a bunch of pitch shifting. Oh, can I not? Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I could do some auto tune. I'll just do pitch 2 on this just because it's quick. So I'm going to just set these like kind of wonky all over the place. That'll be -10. This will be down 17. This one will be 5. Now pitch 2 doesn't like to be automated for whatever reason. It's, yeah, I've run into this when I've used this for creature vocals. This one will be down 24. And now when I do this, it should be pretty interesting. Let's see.
$500's a deal. And that's only because that's out of the
See,
good.
pitch 2, you add it, and then it just snaps to chorus to 0. So let me do this again. Like, yeah, like this is all set up right, dude. I don't know what you're on about. This, like, see, okay, so pitch 2, I've added it, and I've said, no, this one's down 24, and it just won't, it will not take it. So let me put these on off. And then that should be down 24. This should be down whatever. This should be here. This should be up. And this will be way up, chipmunk level. And then I'll try this again. So we want the automation off on all these. So you should be good, right? Chorus minus, okay, let's try this.
That's only because that's out of goodness.
Your old employer's heart.
So I should have had this bigger. Sorry, I was watching the plugin to make sure it didn't freak out.
That's only because that's out of the goodness.
Your old employer's heart.
Yeah, so you can get really creative and like do it to picture and all that stuff. So yeah, let's wrap up that trick. That is one. It's interesting, you know, like you can use this for a bunch of different things. Yeah, so it's good. So now I have to think of what I want to do for trick 2, because this was like the main one. I was like, this is cool. Oh, I got another one. Okay, so let's table this. I'm going to make these inactive. You could probably do these in DaVinci Resolve with some difficulty. Pro Tools is just like a beast for automating stuff and for processing stuff. So I'll give you another great trick with dialog specifically. So this clip is a boom mic, and it's noisy, and you know, I have lavs for it, but let's say this was an indie film, not indie film, even like student film, and they just put a boom in the area, and like that's what they did. So for noise reduction, a really great tip is to mix the raw with the processed. So I'm actually going to do continuous file, and I'm going to crank this pretty hot. Like this is going to be a lot of noise reduction. And so the problem with doing noise reduction is you can see it has taken out all, I shouldn't say all, most of the ambient sound. It's taken out a lot of the other stuff that is not dialogue, but is still good sound. Like I want to hear the traffic. I want to hear the props they're playing with. If you were to just run the noise reduced and play this back.
500's a deal.
Oh, it's all panned weird. That's crazy. Sorry about that.
500's a deal. And that's only because that's out of the goodness of your old employer's heart.
Sure. So sure, it sounds okay, you know, but we really want to have things sound good and not just clean. And I harp on that. If you go back through all my videos, it's not about let's noise reduce to the max. Let's crank this stuff up and just hammer everything 100%. It's about like what sounds the best. What's the best sound quality? Maybe not the cleanest, but the best sound, pleasing to your ears, makes you feel good. And when you start to noise reduce stuff, it starts to sound processed and robotic and not good to your ears. So what I like to do when I do have to hit stuff pretty hard with noise reduction is mix in the cleaned up Robo Terminator T2000 processed with the raw, organic, what's a good movie that feels organic and real? Juno, a little bit too hipsterish. Maybe the Florida Project, something where it's like real and raw. Like I want that kind of real, this is really happening and the mics are picking it up and it doesn't sound over processed. So I want to have the clean with the dirty and mix them together and have something that just sounds good, which should sound something like this.
500's a deal. And that's only because that's out of the goodness of your old employer's heart.
Okay, so yeah, it sounds better, it sounds cleaner. Like if I just played the dirty one,
500's a deal.
sounds a little distant, and if I play the dirty with the clean,
500's a deal.
it sounds full and tight and better without being just,
500's a deal.
ooh, you know, it's like, I don't want that nasty, clean, digital AI kind of sound in my shows. I want them to sound full and rich and human. So, tip number 2 is marry the processed with the unprocessed to get a really full, rich, real sound. Don't go for processed, robotic, disgusting, nasty, Adobe AI enhance BS. Good, clean, not too clean, cleaned up a little bit, and full sound. It's just going to make things pop and be clear without them being overly processed, because when you process things, it does take away clarity. You're scrubbing a little bit of the texture out of the dialogue. So if I'm mixing the dialogue that I'm cutting, I will rarely just play a processed sound. If it is, it's processed just a little bit, you know, just to shave off some of the schmutz. So, Diamond District Studio says, I imagine phasing issues with this. Great question. If you use like this Acon, you know, or something that is what's a good way to put it? Professional, or like, you know, that does like, that has the same processing on multiple passes. The phase issue is non-existent. You can see I've zoomed in on the waveform. Stuff is right where it needs to be. The zero crossings, let's make sure the zero crossings are lined up. Zero crossings are, I can't even go because it's so tight to the sample. Oh, the zero crossing is off by like, I don't know, a sample. So if you were concerned about that, then all you have to do is go to your other expensive plugin, Auto-Align Post, and do this. So create individual files, set your key track to DX1, and then align it. And so it has aligned the processed to the unprocessed. Let's just make sure that it actually did that. Zero crossing is lined up now, so we're good. So that worked. Yeah, and that's maybe another, it's not really a secret. Most people who work at a certain level know about Auto-Align Post, but this plugin aligns multiple microphones to a consistent source. And Auto-Align Post 2 does it dynamically, meaning that if the mics change their relationship, like the mics move apart, like a boom mic pulls off an actor and the lav mic is just, you know, right like this, it's right on their body, then it will account for the dynamic change in phase, meaning as it changes over time, this plugin will just slide it around and compress and expand. It does tend to mess some stuff up, so you have to be careful with this. But this actually is a great natural segue into my next trick, which is using Auto-Align Post 2 on sound effects. Yeah, let's see. If you guys hear a delay, it's probably from the mic, from this mic. I'm not muting my monitors, I'm just raw dogging it. So you're hearing the Pro Tools output and you're hearing my mic, and I'll figure out a way to, I think I could mute. Yeah, I got this little stream box here I could probably mute if I wanted. Yeah, I can. I could do that. I could go, I'm not sure, that's kind of tricky. Yeah, I'd have to go, I'll figure that out. It'd be great to get a momentary mute switch or something so that when I do Pro Tools, it's not hearing this. So yeah. Okay, couple questions we have. I'll get into this secret next, and then probably like 8:30, 8:40ish, I'm gonna sign off because I got some stuff. I have like a scheduled thing today, which is pretty rare for me. Dudo Alvarez says, watching from Mexico. I hope you're, tell me what city you're from. I grew up a couple miles from Mexico, and my family has roots in Mexico, so let me know where you're watching from. Okay, was wondering if having all your tracks on touch and trim instead of just touch latch has any particular reason. I kind of float between, I mostly use touch. Like when I take my hand off a fader, I want it to go back to 0. And then trim, I like my faders to be quiet. Environmental noise is kind of a big deal for me, and so if I hear the faders going the whole time, it's really distracting for me. So putting them in trim keeps them all parked at the top, and just keeps my room quieter. And I do that with every place I work, whether it's here or a dub stage. Like after I do a pre-dub pass and I'm done, like, you know, 10 fingering faders or whatever, I put them in trim mode, and it seems to work really well for me. So let's see, Diamond District. I still need to invest in Auto-Align Post 2 and Hush Pro. Hush Pro is cool if you already have noise reduction plugins. Like, you don't need 10 of them. You know, you might need like 1 or 2, and that's pretty much it. So I wouldn't worry too much about buying more noise reduction plugins, but Auto-Align Post 2 is like kind of like you should have it. If you're working on shows where they have multiple mics, you're gonna need it. Dudo asks, I'm sorry for this question out of topic, but if you're importing sounds from Soundly, you usually import them with option drag them to audio files for them to copy to the audio files folder. Great question, and no, that is not how I do it. I can show you how I do it here. Let me look for, how about an M1911 or 1911A? Yeah, let's do that. So let's go down to some sound effects tracks all the way down here. And my tracks are freaking huge. Okay, so let's say I'm gonna make a nice gunshot here. You guys can see this. Yep, you can. And this is great because I can show you this and I can show you the auto align post. So let me just, sure, why not? That's a stereo. We'll put that on a stereo track. That's got some nice spread. Let's say maybe I want to make this a huge gunshot. Yeah, let's do that one. Classic. Let's do a cannon. Nope, not that kind of cannon. It's 2 ends, right? It is 2 ends. Canon is the brand of camera. Sure, why not? It's a good one. And just because, you know, this is an over-the-top action movie, let's do a face punch. Sure. So what I'm doing is I'm getting the sound I want, and then I'm hitting S in Soundly. And it spots it to Pro Tools. Spotting to Pro Tools, as long as you have the settings in Pro Tools set to, where is it? Copy, is it editing? Help me out here. Or processing, it's processing. Import, convert imported wave files to AES31 broadcast wave. So what that should do is when you bring them in, you can do automatically copy files on import too, but when you bring them in, what should happen is it puts them on, like this is on my work drive, so spotting them actually puts the audio file in your audio files folder with that setting in Pro Tools enabled. So great question. Dudo, thank you so much for that. So, auto line post 2. I've just added 4 layers to this gunshot, and if I play it back, maybe it's not punchy. Like when I listen to each of the layers by themselves, they sound pretty good. Cool, face punch, pistol shot, handgun, cannon fire. That's great. What I'll do, since we're going to be listening to this, I'll put on headphones. So yeah, let me mute my guy here. Master volume is muted, and then I can actually listen to what you guys are hearing on the stream with my headphones. Let's see. Cool. So you shouldn't have as much bleed now. Okay, so we got cannon. We got a handgun. That's like a real 1911 A1. That's probably like a 45 or something. And then we got a face punch for whatever reason. So each sound individually is like, yeah, that sounds good. But when you play them all together, maybe it's a little, it doesn't punch as much. So what we are going to do is use Auto Align Post 2 to align all of these sound effects together. Instead of, you know, hand lining and checking the phase and all that, we want the most punch out of this single sound as we can, and when we start adding layers, you get phase discrepancies, and so this will kind of fix that. So what you need to do is figure out which layer you want to be your hero layer, your sync reference for all the other ones, and for that, I like to listen to them and figure out, like, what's the loudest sound going to be? What's the meat of the sound? So this pistol shot layer here, to me, has the most complete palette of sounds, you know, EQ and transient. Like, it doesn't have a huge transient, so I'm going to use this as my sync source. So in Auto Align Post, I go, instead of dialogue, we're going to move all the way down to sound effects and set this to FXA8. It's AM8. And then I'm going to process each one of these. And you see it's flipped the phase, it's aligned the bass and the treble to it. It's a little dicey with stereo layers because the stereo spread in a stereo layer is created from phase discrepancies. So be careful using this on stereo layers. It will make them less wide. It's going to really kind of mono them out a little bit. So you can set this to continuous multi-input, and we'll see what that does. So it's slid it right. and then let's see what it does to this cannon. This cannon has that ka-chow type of sound, and it's just flipped the phase. I might actually on this one, I might want to do this one in mono mode. Cool. So now if I play them all together, cool. Let me undo that and we'll just kind of go back and forth. So it's subtle, but the aligned version has a much tighter impact sound. You know, it maybe doesn't sound as wide and lush, but it has a much tighter impact. This trick really works great for punch sound design. When you have like a low, a mid, and a high, and maybe a slap or a bone break, to align the frequencies to a single transient point automatically without you having to like go in and slide it around sample-wise, it speeds it up. Now, if you have top layers like a bone crunch or a dry fire on your gun, do not align it. You want those to be separate. You actually want them to be like a frame or two before or after the big transient for them to read. When you stack up a bunch of layers, what happens is they all get smushed together, and it can really limit the clarity of your sound that you're working on by having too many layers. So use this, but use it carefully because it's easy to have like 10 layers for a punch and you don't need that much. You'll find that really like more professional sound designers have less layers. They have enough layers to get the job done and give the mixer options, but they're not layering stuff 10 and 20 deep because it's just unwieldy at that point. Okay, so I'm gonna go through some comments really quick. Okay, how do you decide which parameters to use on auto align, spectral align, or polarity? So I like to use dynamic and spectral. So spectral is like kind of everything phase related. Polarity will not split up the bass and treble to like the different. They started doing this because of the, I think it was like the Shep Super C-Mitt or one of those boom mics that does like a digital AES version where it actually like messes with the phase of the low and high frequencies differently. So the polarity is not as tight of a sync as spectral, and it really just flips the polarity, and spectral will actually treat the frequencies a little differently based on what needs to happen, because sometimes the bass and treble aren't aligned in the individual clip, like in the shotgun mic or whatever. So I tend to use it set to dynamic and spectral. Good question. Is Hush good for movie post-production? I have tools like DX Revive. Is it comparable? It's kind of like Ford, Chevy, and Dodge. Like all these new noise reduction tools do a very similar job at taking out unwanted noise and reverberation. So you'll find that people will tend to align with one or the other. Some people want them all, and if they've got money to spend on buying every noise reduction tool known to man, then sure, go for it. But really, it's better to have a few tools that you know really well and how to use them, how to get the most out of them, versus having 10 tools that you don't really know how to use properly. So just pick your lane that you want to go down, get to know that plugin, and use it versus getting gear acquisition syndrome or plug-in acquisition syndrome, PAS, and being like, ooh, a new AI noise reduction tool came out. Let me get that, you know, because then you're just going to be spending money instead of making it, and that's not a great spot to be in. We got another person from South Africa, Milowo. He's been a member for a long time. He's one of the OGs. Okay. Newbie on audio posts from Cesar. Great to see if, yeah. Dudo Alvarez says, last question. What's a great movie recommendation for sound designer, sound in general, outside the box office ones and big franchise movies? A movie that you really like the sound of it. I mean, I go to like they're classic now. They weren't classic when they came out. Movies that have really inspired me. No Country for Old Men. There's Saving Private Ryan. Like, there's Fight Club. Like, those are all pretty big movies. They're not franchise movies, but they're big movies. I don't watch a lot of stuff in general. Like, I don't watch a lot of TV or movies in general. And I really don't spend time seeking out things for, like, quality, like wanting to be creatively inspired or something like that. And man, why is that? I think it's because when I'm working, I spend so much time watching a film or a show on my studio screen and listening to it. When I watch something, I really just want to be entertained and I want to be told a great story. So I tend to not seek things out for sound. There's some stuff I worked on that I'm really proud of that you could check out that isn't like big budget stuff. A really interesting one I got nominated for a Golden Reel for is a indie horror film called We Are Still Here. And the sound designer, Ryan Gegenheimer, did an awesome job. It's really like kind of a throwback late 70s, early 80s horror film, but made in modern times. And it's not a period piece per se, but the vibe of it was really interesting. We did some cool stuff with the sound effects, and the dialogue was recorded on like a super old field recorder. I think it was like an Edirol R44 or something like that. So that, and the music was made by this like indie Arizona guy, two guy band, and the music's really good, and I'm really proud of that. So that's something you can check out. I've been to film festivals and watched other stuff and been like, oh, that's cool, but nothing like sticks out to me because I try to just not watch too much content. Like, I try to be outside or spending time with my family. So good question. Sorry, there's not like a pointy finger answer for it. Okay. Mixed by AB. When it comes to gain staging, what dB should everything be peaking at? It depends. A question I could ask you that would have the same answer is how long is a piece of string? It depends. So I have videos on dialogue loudness and film loudness. It's going to depend on what format you're mixing for. Is it stereo? Is it 5.1? It's for Netflix, Amazon. Is it for TV? What's the TV broadcast specs in your country? Is it for web? How dynamic do you want it to be? What's the director asking for? There's not like a short answer for that. But basic outline would be get your dialogue to be at a nice, healthy spec level. It's probably minus 24 if you're working in TV, and then mix everything around that. Because people complain mostly about they can't hear the dialogue. They got to turn subtitles on. We do not want that. Henry Hawk says, how do you like to process Foley? Is it good Foley or bad Foley? If it's good Foley, then, I will just do an EQ. And it might be flat. There might be no EQ. If it's bad Foley, meaning clicky, transient, too spiky Foley, a really good pro tip, which fits into our theme for today, is to use RxD Click or Decrackle. This will take off, I'll show you this. This will take off some of the spikiness. Like footsteps, a lot of the time, especially if they're walking on concrete or something. Like these I cut from a library, but here's an example. You can see like there's a lot of transient information on here, and it might not sound great. So what I like to do for those is I'll go to declick, and I'll set this to multi-band random. I'll turn the sensitivity down for Foley, and then I'll render it. And this will just take off some of the spike. So there's a before and there's an after. And this really helps bed the Foley into the production sound, because the number one thing that Foley artists do, if they're not, first of all, choosing the wrong sound or the wrong prop or shoe surface, the number one thing they do is they do too much. The sound is too big. And there's all kinds of reasons for that. It goes back to like the tape days and everything when they were fighting analog noise and preamp hiss, and you had to go over the preamp hiss to get the sounds to read. Generally, they'll try to do things bigger than what happens on screen. So sometimes that's good, and other times it's too much, and so you can't just bring it down. So you can use declick. You can also use like a transient shaping tool like Bittersweet, or there's another one, I forget what it's called, to like take the transients off the actual sound. So there's a couple of tricks for spiky, peaky Foley. Okay, so yeah, Diamond District says aim to come out at R128 levels. That's a great tip. And mix by ear. Can you show how LFE should be loud? That is really hard to do on a stream because you guys are in stereo. And so the LFE, what I like to do for LFE is have it just support the frequencies that are already in the main speakers, especially the front speakers, because they tend to be the biggest, and not have stuff just in the LFE. And what I don't like to do, a big mistake I see people do, is add a ton of music to the LFE. And maybe it's because they come from the world of mixing hip-hop for SoundCloud rappers, but adding music as a default to your LFE is terrible. It's not a bass management channel. The bass management is going to happen in the home theater or in the cinema if they have it. So don't just add music to the LFE. I know we all like bass and everything, but it's called low frequency effects. Low frequency effects. It's for special moments. It's not for all the time. I don't want to hear strawberry farts coming out of the subwoofers for every music cue that comes on. I want to hear it for gunshots, impacts, heartbeats, maybe a stinger in the music if there's like a nice sub stinger, bass drops. Sure, add a little bass drop to the subwoofer if it needs it, but generally your speakers should be full range, so you're not going to need to add the LFE. The LFE, I like to generate subharmonics with Pro Sub Harmonic, which is right here. I like to use this on a mono aux. You can see I've got MX LFE, which is enabled right now. It's disabled, I'm not using it. And that's how I get LFE for my mix. So good question. I'm gonna take like one more question and then I'm gonna sign off because I got stuff to do. So I'm trying to think of other kind of secrets or tips or tricks I can tell you guys. Mixing, let's see, mixing. Oh, spacing stuff out is really important. This can generally happen during sound editing, but you'll find yourself doing this during a mix because if you have a sound effects editor and a music editor and dialogue editor and Foley editor, and they bring all these tracks together, people maybe haven't been talking to each other, you know, or saying, hey, at this time code exactly, I'm going to have this impact. So the timing of big moments like a jump scare or a gunshot or a punch and Foley happening at the same time as the punch, you really have to spread things out for them to read. So if you have like a music hit and a sound effects hit and a punch all happening at the same time, it's going to be too much. It's going to be too much to process. So what you want to do is have things spaced out. Here's a fight sequence, and so you can see there's like 3 frames. Two frames you can kind of hear the space, but 3 frames is really clear. Here's a punch. You can see I've got a whoosh and then the punch, and the whoosh happens before the punch. And the bone crunch of the punch happens a frame after. So stair-stepping these sounds and spacing them out, even if it's a frame or two, helps each sound be read by your ear. Because if you were to just put them all together at the same time, it's just going to sound like noise. So you really want to space these out. So that, you know, I'll put the video on for this too. You know, that reads way better than, let me put them all at the same time. You know, that, like, sure, it's a tighter, more concise sound, but it doesn't sound as interesting as, you know, that's really nice. Okay, so that will be my last tip. Okay, we just talked about layering sound effects, so great minds think alike. You mind sharing your templates? Yes, I have templates. You can check out my templates on my website. So go to, there should be a link in all the videos. It's 4LO Digital, 4LO-digital. youtube.com/shop. I've got stereo 5.1, Dolby Atmos, DaVinci Resolve. I have a DaVinci Resolve 5.1 template now that'll mix in 5.1 stereo and a web mix. So if you're interested in templates, you can check that out. Help support me, help the channel, keep going. Okay, other quick question. What advice do you have for a moderately experienced engineer looking to narrow his field by specializing as a dialogue editor? Good question. I would say hone your skills so they're super sharp, and then start putting yourself out there. Contact supervising sound editors. Offer to do the first reel of a project for either free or a discounted rate. And then when you show them your value as a collaborator, you know, then you'll get a full rate. And make sure you line that out like, hey, let me do this as a trial. If you like it, let's talk about working together professionally. Let's see. Jabari says, Portland mixer. Portland, awesome. We're in the same state. I'd love to see how you set up your mix stem exports to the stem, some to the mix. I've got videos on that. I can do another one, but if you just search the final mix stage of videos, yeah. Javier says, how has the Stream Deck helped? I don't have a Stream Deck. I use Keyboard Maestro. The thing I have for streaming is a GoStream like hardware streamer box. It's really just for this. It's for streaming video to YouTube. So my stream is not using my computer at all right now. It's running through a little hardware box. It's really cool. Okay. Quick question, can you advise some book on theory of audio post-production? The Art of Dialogue Editing for Motion Pictures by John Purcell is a great book for that. When are you going to run a mixing competition? I could do that. I kind of tried with this short, and like 2 people submitted, so it wasn't like a big thing. Riley Geringer says Stream Deck and SoundFlow looks powerful. Yeah, I don't know. I tried that stuff, and Keyboard Maestro is way faster for me. If I have to take my hands off the keyboard and hit a shiny button on something, it's like, it just slows me down. So with that, I'm going to sign off here. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this live stream. Sorry it's kind of short. Like I said, I got stuff going on today. I will have more edited videos coming out. I've got one for this week. I think I need to make one for the following week. Yeah, I'll need to catch up on that stuff. And yeah, thanks again to channel members for supporting my channel. We are like right around 150 members on the channel, which is awesome. And the commentary you guys have been putting into Discord is just super inspiring to me. I don't want that. I just wanted to show you guys the Discord real quick. So yeah, there is like pages and pages of answers and questions, and we're doing a member of the week. So the member of the week this week is it? Yeah, it's Alexander Edits. So thanks for your support, and members of the week get a special like kind of consultation time with me. Nobody's taken me up on it yet, but yeah, so that's all for members. So thank you guys so much. Thanks for supporting my channel, checking this stream, this video, all your comments. If you have a request for next week's stream, drop a comment below, and I will try my best to do that. So until next time, I'll see you guys then.